Cali X Boxing in the building. Cali X Boxing 2.0 over here on YouTube. Let me check the settings on my microphone right here. It looks like we're good. If there's any issues with the mic, please let me know. But it looks like we're good. Forgot to check them before I came in the building. Appreciate all y'all passing through. As you come through, leave a comment in the comment section so I know who you are. Also, hit that like button as you come through. And also, as most of you will be watching in the archives, make sure to leave the comment below what's going on to my guy, Wheelchair Man John. Y'all make sure to hit that like button as y'all come through. The Tyson Fury news cycle continues. Because of course, and Tyson Fury has given Anthony Joshua a deadline. We gave you the deal a day or two ago. Your deadline is today. You take the fight 100% on our terms, or you kick rocks. That's Tyson Fury giving Anthony Joshua the deadline of today. We all know what to expect of this whole thing. I tried to explain it a little bit yesterday. I'll explain it in further detail today on what's going on with Tyson Fury and the Anthony Joshua situation. Tyson Fury is just so exhausting to follow. The news cycle is so exhausting. Jojo Diaz versus William Zepeda is official for October 29th over in San Diego. We'll talk about that briefly. Deontay Wilder, boxing scene. He did an interview yesterday with Boxing Scene, so that's interesting. I'll have some thoughts on that as well. When it comes to Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, it's just who can make the crazier comment? Who can be the crazier guy that given day? And they're in a battle right now. They're in the battle for the craziest heavyweight. Still, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder are still competing against each other. It's not in the ring right now, although Deontay Wilder wants to fight Tyson Fury a fourth time because of course, Tyson Fury still cheated. Of course, he had egg weights in his glove. Of course, his own trainer poisoned him. Of course, the trainer who was watching them put the gloves on Tyson Fury and missed the egg weights being inserted into the glove, because that happened, was still kept on the team. But the guy who allegedly poisoned him was off the team. More on that whole nonsense. Bam Rodriguez is going to be on the Chocolatito versus Estrada card in December. Excited about that. Manny Pacquiao is fighting an exhibition fight in December, and then another exhibition fight early next year against a sparring partner. So we'll talk about that as well. And Shields versus Marshall card. It looks like that's going to be postponed due to the Queen. She just passed. The Queen of England just passed away. And apparently there's a rule, a law, I don't know what you want to call it because I'm not from the UK. I'm from over here in America. So I don't know how this works. But apparently the UK people are telling me that when the Queen passes, there's a 10-day hiatus. There's 10 days where you can't hold sporting events after her death. So it looks like we're not going to get Shields versus Marshall card this weekend. It's going to have to be postponed. So that sucks. So it looks like that's going to be the case. We'll talk about that as well. Wilder will never let it go. He won't. It's like losing the homecoming queen. The homecoming queen is your girlfriend, and then after high school, she breaks up with you. And you have to watch her on Facebook, date guy after guy after guy who is not you, and you just can't let it go. That's where Deontay Wilder is when it comes to Tyson Fury and losing that trilogy. My client has a mountain of LDBC videos to submit as proof, Your Honor. James Burrell, appreciate you coming through. Yeah, the LDBC, they're still at it. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, when Deontay Wilder is in the news cycle, it's great for the LDBC because it gives them content finally to talk about, right? They can go on there. They call themselves the young Matlocks over there. They can go spread their conspiracy theories about how Tyson Fury had all this stuff in his glove. And, you know, before was he took the padding out of the glove. Then he had the Antonio Margarito cocktail in his glove. Then they went to full-blown egg weights in the glove after that. And then his trainer poisoned him. That was my favorite one. That was my favorite conspiracy theory from the Deontay Wilder fans. His trainer poisoned him. That was my favorite one. And I'm still asking for a motive as to why his trainer would poison him. What was the motive in that? And they've still never explained the motive to me. It's just because, he poisoned them. Just listen to us. He poisoned his fighter. Yeah, but why? Why did he poison? Because there were, it didn't look like clear liquid in that water bottle. It didn't look like clear liquid, but why would he poison him? Stop asking. It doesn't matter. Shout out to the Don coming through. Shields is ducking. Don, Calix, salute. Y'all make sure to hit that like button as y'all comment and leave comments in the comment section. So that's the whole breakdown of what we've got today. Let's start with Jojo Diaz versus William Zepeda, being announced today for October 29th officially in San Diego. And I love that fight. And it's going up against Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. And by the way, Anderson Silva is not going to take a dive against Jake Paul. That's not going to happen. And the betting odds for that fight is Jake Paul plus 115 and the Spider minus 135. So the Spider is actually the slight favorite against Jake Paul. And this is the first time I can remember Jake Paul coming in as a slight underdog. And that's because they know, the odds makers know, Spider Silva is not the type of dude to take a dive. So Jake Paul is going to have to actually fight in this fight and try to actually knock a dude out. And we'll see how that goes for Mr. Jake Paul. But on that same night, we've got one of the best action fights on paper of this year, 2022. And that's Jojo Diaz versus William Zepeda. The reason I love that fight is because Zepeda, I call him the Mexican murder hornet because he just wants to hurt. He wants to hurt. He wants to hurt. One track mind. Wants to throw punches. Wants to throw every punch with bad intentions. And he's smart. He's got more layers to his game than people give him credit for, but he wants to hurt you. He wants to hurt you. And Jojo Diaz the same way, pressure fighter, but not a big puncher, but great chin. Pressure fighter, not a big puncher, great chin. But he's more of a seasoned fighter up until this point. So William Zepeda. William Zepeda is a guy with a higher ceiling, a guy who has a ceiling who 5 years from now, I expect William Zepeda to be further along than when Jojo Diaz ever went in his career. But at this point in time, you could argue Jojo Diaz, more experienced, more seasoned fighter, William Zepeda, higher upside. We'll see how this goes this point in time as they collide at this point in time. Jojo Diaz, not a big puncher at 135. William Zepeda is. And I expect this to go one way. It's just going to be a collision, a war. And on paper, this is a fight of the year candidate fight. Zepeda versus Jojo Diaz. I'm excited about it. I favor William Zepeda. The thing that's interesting about this is Jojo Diaz, he lost to Devin Haney, yes, but he was trending up until that point. And William Zepeda, although hasn't lost the fight, has been trending down a little bit. Hasn't looked as great in his last couple fights. So we're going to see how this goes. Both these guys need momentum back. Zepeda needs to get his momentum back. He was seen as a boogeyman type of guy, not so much anymore. And Jojo Diaz wants his momentum back after the loss to Devin Haney. So we'll see how that goes. D-Nice in the building. Salute my guy, Bruce Gas. My guy, Bruce Gas. D-Nice, yes, the fight is likely postponed from what I'm hearing. I don't know how old Anderson Silva is, but if Jake Paul even survives, I'll have a whole new respect for him. And according to this, might as well go ahead and talk about it. Shields, who is now the favorite, by the way. Clarissa Shields is minus 120 favorite. Savannah Marshall plus 100. And the betting odds for that fight are interesting. I was looking at them this morning before it looked like the fight was going to be postponed. But apparently, to break it down for people is, from what I'm hearing over on Twitter from my UK folks, is when the Queen passes away, there's a 10-day moratorium. There's like 10 days where you can't have sporting events in England. That's what I'm being told. That's what I'm being told. Don't hold me to this because this is what I'm being told from the UK folks. I'm obviously a dude from America. You don't hear the English accent. Not from the UK. But from what I'm being told, this fight's not going to happen this weekend. It's going to be postponed because they can't have a boxing card the weekend after the Queen passes away. There's a 10-day mourning period in the country and sporting events can't be held. That's what I'm being told. So look for this fight. Look for this card to be postponed. I don't know that officially, but that's what the UK crowd, the UK content creators are saying about this card. I don't know. I already got to that one. Yep. Can Darrell beat Plant? Can Darrell beat Plant? Darrell is a huge underdog. Plant is minus 1250. Darrell is 37 years old. Darrell is trending down. The thing about Darrell, though, is he's lost to top competition recently. So it's not like he's losing to bums, but Caleb Plant is no bum either. Caleb Plant is on par or better than the fighters that Darrell has been losing to as of recently. So I expect Darrell, pretty confidently, I expect Darrell to lose this fight to Caleb Plant. It's a fight in which Caleb Plant is being set up against a name on the B side that he can beat at a point in his career where he should beat Darrell, 37 years old, and Caleb Plant still supposed to be in his prime. This is a fight. If Caleb Plant can't win this fight, then Caleb Plant's donezo for the most part. You got to beat a Darrell at this point in your career. You got to beat him. You got to beat him. So a must win for Caleb Plant to get back on his feet. He's a huge favorite, and I think the odds makers are right here. I think Caleb Plant, for the most part, outboxes, outjabs, dictates the pace of the fight with the jab, and beats Darrell pretty handily on the cards, 117, 111, something like that. So can he beat him? Yeah. Yeah, I give him like a 15% chance of beating Caleb Plant, something like that. But will he beat him? I just don't think so. I don't think so. According to the betting odds for this weekend, by the way, I was getting into that. Shields by decision is plus 130. Marshall by decision is plus 250. So I like that bet a lot. Marshall by stoppage plus 270, because if Marshall wins the fight, it's likely going to be by stoppage. But the draw in this fight is plus 1,200. The least likely scenarios are the draw and Shields by knockout. And I take both of those. I take the Shields by knockout off the table because Shields doesn't have the power to knock out Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall has more pathways to victory, but the pathway to victory that is the widest, that is the most likely, is Clarissa Shields by decision, according to the odds makers. But Marshall still has more pathways to victory because she can still win by decision. That's not out of the question, and she can win by knockout because she is a big puncher. So if you like the draw here, remember we're talking about 10 rounds, 2-minute rounds. So the draw is more plausible than a 12-round, 3-minute fight that we usually see in title fights following men's boxing. Boxing historian, appreciate you passing through. I do. Marshall's stopping her is what I got. And that's what I lean to as well. But we'll see when this fight actually happens, because it looks like it's not happening this weekend. Now, as far as let's get to Deontay Wilder's comments first, because Deontay Wilder, and let me pull it up on Boxing Scene, gave an interview. And Deontay Wilder said, people say if he did have something in his gloves, and I'm quoting, why not go to the authorities? Why the F would I when I had an opportunity to put my hands upon him and the possibility of trying to kill him and get paid millions of dollars doing it? And this is actually a Fight Hype, not Boxing Scene. Deontay Wilder asked if he'll ever be friendly with Tyson Fury. Nah, never, because I know the truth behind it. I don't condone cheating and stuff like that. I know that, no matter what people say. So Deontay Wilder is still claiming that Tyson Fury cheated in the fight. Deontay Wilder is still calling for a fourth fight. He's saying, I want the fourth fight. And the WBC has made his fight with Helenius an eliminator for a possible WBC showdown again in the future. So we're circling back to a possible fourth fight between Fury and Wilder. And the reason that I don't discount that it could happen in the future, although not the near future, possibly the far future, is both these guys are insane. I mean, I hate to say it, they're both insane. I'm reading the comments. I'm looking at Tyson Fury. What has Tyson Fury done the past couple months? He's called out the heavyweight champion of the UFC. He's called out the Icelandic tough man champion / actor. He's called out Chisora for a third fight, a trilogy that nobody wanted, nobody asked for. He hires a new trainer. 2 days after he hired a new trainer, he retires and vacates his ring belt. He holds on to his WBC belt. Like 7 days later, he decides to unretire. He said, I was bored in retirement. You were bored in retirement, dude. You were retired for like 72 hours. You were that bored in retirement? So then he unretires. And then he says, I'll fight Usyk for free for undisputed. And then a day later, he says, I'll only fight Usyk for a gazillion trillion dollars. And then after that, Usyk says, let's do it. Let's fight in spring 2023, February, March, something like that. So Tyson Fury says, no, December. I want to fight in December. You're ducking me. And Usyk's like, what the hell is going on? What is this? What do you mean I'm ducking you? And Tyson Fury is saying, you fight me in December or you're ducking me. And Usyk's saying, no, we'll fight in February, March. So then Tyson Fury points to Anthony Joshua at that point and says, let's do the fight in November, December. Anthony Joshua agrees to everything. And then Tyson Fury starts to do Tyson Fury things and said, no, I don't want to fight December 17th. I want to fight December 3rd. And Joshua camp's like, dude, it's 2 weeks. It's a 2-week difference. What's the difference? Let's fight December 17th. And Fury's saying, no, you're going to agree to everything that I put forward. December 3rd, the date, December 3rd, we're going to do it where I want to do it. This is Tyson Fury's world. You agree to everything Tyson Fury says, and you do it by today or you lose the fight. And all of this, what it comes down to is all of this, the whole laundry list of things I just mentioned when it comes to Tyson Fury is what the kids call cap. Cap. This dude is insane. Great fighter. I've said it a million times on this channel. I picked Tyson Fury to beat any other fighter in the world. Tyson Fury versus anybody in the heavyweight division, I'm picking Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury versus Usyk, I lean towards Tyson Fury winning the fight. But the dude is insane. And I mean that respectfully. Going all the way back to beating Klitschko and then not defending the belts, not sticking around, disappearing, and then all the way back to where we're at now. It can never be just Tyson Fury winning a fight and saying, okay, I'm going to do this fight next. And then the negotiations happen behind the scenes. They announce the fight. They announce the fight that we want to see. What is it going to take for us to get an undisputed heavyweight champion? What is it going to take? It's been 2 decades. Klitschko brothers have a stranglehold on the division. We have a 2-headed monster, so we can't have an undisputed champion during the Klitschko reign. Tyson Fury beats Klitschko, and finally, we're going to get an undisputed heavyweight champion. He's released the stranglehold that Vladimir Klitschko had on the division, and then he just disappears. Not reliable. So we say, oh, Tyson Fury's coming back. This is Tyson Fury 2.0, revamped, a level-headed guy. He's going to right his wrongs of the past. Tyson Fury defeats Deontay Wilder 3 times, in my opinion. And instead of him staying course with that, instead of him defending the belt, instead of him trying to unify, instead of him trying to be undisputed, it seems to me like Tyson Fury is allergic to undisputed. Seems like he's allergic. Like somebody's allergic to peanut butter, somebody's allergic to medication. I think he's allergic to undisputed. I think can't have it. Can't happen. Don't value it. Whatever it is, he does not want to give us undisputed. He does not want to just go to the next step. And we just cannot have a reliable heavyweight to become undisputed and to become the guy, the heavyweight champion. This division is on the spectrum. It's the growing list of traditional, sexy divisions in boxing that are on the spectrum that just cannot get their act together. Middleweight, another one. Lightweight, another one. Lightweight's been on and off. Welterweight division, talented as it is, been on the spectrum as well. Dumpster juice division with all the talent in it. And the heavyweight is the same thing. Anthony Joshua was the most reliable, consistent guy, but apparently he doesn't have the talent to become undisputed because he fell short against Alexander Usyk. Tyson Fury can't do it because he can't get out of his own way. He's doing Tyson Fury things. Deontay Wilder, who the hell knows what's going on in the head of Deontay Wilder right now? And he doesn't look like he has the talent to pull it off either because he lost to Tyson Fury. And it doesn't look like Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury are going to be guys who are going to be around 5 years from now anyway. So what I'm asking is, who is going to be the heavyweight guy? Who is going to be the guy to come around in his prime, consolidate all the belts, or at least try to, at least to get around boxing politics and attempt to do it, and still have a long career ahead of that and still be reliable and consistent enough to defend belts, to fight mandatories like Vladimir Klitschko did, like the heavyweights in the 90s did? Who's going to be that guy? And when I look at the top of the division right now, as talented as those guys are, as big a names as those guys are, I don't see that guy. Don't see it. So it's got to be somebody else coming up. It's got to be a Jared Baby Anderson, somebody like that, who's going to have to get the opportunities to get a big name, leverage himself into big fights, win a title in his prime, defend it, unify, and then try to work within the 4 sanctioning body frame blueprint in order to try to become undisputed in the division. Because right now I don't see this guy. When I look at Deontay Wilder, when I see these comments, when I see him still hunting down a 4th fight with Tyson Fury, dude, it's been done. It's over. It's over. It's over. You lost. You lost, and you lost fair and square. Give it up. Give it up. You lost the fight. There were no egg weights. There was no poison. And there was a time when I thought he was just capping about this. There was a time when, he didn't really believe this. This was stuff he was just picking up from the LDBC in order to make excuses for himself. But when he's carrying on with this for this long, I'm starting to think that he actually believes this. I'm starting to think that he actually believes his trainer poisoned him. I'm starting to believe that he actually looked at the dent in his head after the second fight, and said, this guy had egg weights in his gloves. This guy really had egg weights in his gloves. And he's going on these channels. And I thought the whole time it was an act. I thought this whole time like it was an act. Like there's no way these dudes can actually believe this. No, there's no way. Some of them, yeah. I know what they do over there. I know the big channels don't really believe it. They're just getting the clicks. The smaller channels may be chasing it as well. Some of them actually believe it. Their fans in the message boards believe it. I get that. But I thought Deontay Wilder was sort of going along with this, right? Yeah, there's no way my trainer poisoned me. Yeah, there's no way there were egg weights in the glove. Just going along with this because it's a good alibi, provides good alibis. But now I'm starting to think this dude actually believes it. I'm starting to think that he actually believes that he was cheated against Tyson Fury. Not once, twice, but 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times a cheater. You know, I don't know what else. Told you Fury was going to duck Usyk, and this is what it looks like. Like, it just seems like anything but Usyk to me. And this is lining up for him to fight Manuel Char to me in December. What's happening with Fury right now is he's trying to make it look like they're setting AJ up as a fall guy. They know AJ has said he's going to be available December. There's no difference in the 2 weeks. And Fury has said he'll fight Usyk February or March. So there's no difference between December 3rd and December 17th. And I guess you can make the argument the same the other way. Why not Anthony Joshua just go and agree to the December 3rd thing? And maybe he will by the deadline. But I'm telling you, if he does, there's going to be another excuse. There's going to be another fall. This offer they offered Anthony Joshua, this offer, I'm telling you, is full of poison pills. 60-40, 50-50 split for a rematch clause. They're throwing all these things around and expecting AJ to not agree to him. They're expecting, if AJ doesn't agree, they already said if AJ doesn't agree to 100% of this, the fight's off. They're expecting AJ to not agree to something. And if he does agree to something, they're going to throw something else out there. This is them trying to set AJ up as a fall guy and say, see, we told you we wanted to make the Anthony Joshua fight. Anthony Joshua just didn't agree to it. That's what this is, what it's setting up to be. And they're going to fight Emmanuel Char in December to lead up to Usyk, because Fury has shown before big fights, he wants the tune-up fight. He wants to knock off the rust, and he wants to fight a smaller fight before that. And he's going to fight a smaller name fighter in December to get himself ready for Usyk, possibly in February, March. Hopefully. But that's the thing. Like the Tyson Fury news cycle is so crazy, you don't know what to believe anymore. Unless you know how to read the stitches on that fastball. What's more likely, Tank Ryan or Spence Bud? I don't know. Last week, I was optimistic about both. Last week, I thought Bud versus Errol was going to be announced last week on the Ruiz versus Ortiz, on the Ruiz butt tattoo versus Swole Morgan Freeman fight week. That's what I was thinking. I thought they were going to announce Errol versus Bud, announce it the night of the fight, have them both on Fox, interview them, all that good stuff. But we're sitting here Thursday the week after and still no announcement. They're supposed to be doing this fight in mid-November, they were saying. We're 2 months away from that now. You have to build a fight. You have to promote a fight. You have to get a venue. What's going on? And by the way, we're on day 292 of Bud Crawford being a free agent. Bud Crawford was told for years. He was at welterweight for 4 years, and Bud Crawford was being told for 4 years, the reason you're not getting the Errol Spence fight is because you're over there. The reason you're not getting the Danny Garcia fight, you're over there. The reason you're not getting the Sean Porter fight until that fight was finally mandated was you're over there. That's the reason you're not getting these fights is you're across the street. We're over here. You're operating over there. That's why you're not getting the fight. Blame yourself for re-signing with Top Rank. So now we're on day 292 of possible days. They've had 292 possible days to negotiate a fight between Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. And in those days, they went Errol Spence versus Ugas. Okay, it's a good fight. It's a decent fight, but it's not the Bud Crawford fight. And then we're dealing with, May, June, July, August, September. We're 5 months out from the last time Spence fought. Is that right? Yeah, we're 5 months out from when Spence fought Ugas. So what is that? Roughly 150 days since they fought? And still no deal delivered by PBC. So that's why people are getting itchy about why this fight's not signed yet. Why is the fight not signed yet? Why? So when you ask me which one I think is more likely, Tank and Ryan are going back and forth last week on Twitter. They're running out of options for Tank. Tank is telling, what was it? Tank was saying Isak and Raleigh need to fight each other and the winner can fight him again. By the way, I love what they're doing with Isak. Old Isak Cruz. They're building him up like Tank right now, right? They put him in there with a B-side that they know he's going to maul over, build up the B-side as to bigger than he actually is. Oh, my God, do you see how he beat Gamboa? Oh, my God, do you see how he beat this guy? And now Isak Cruz is the boogeyman at 135. He is the boogeyman. The only mythical matchup Isak Cruz loses now is to Tank Davis. He beats everybody else. He's the boogeyman because he beat Gamboa and this other guy. And that's what they're doing under the PBC umbrella. So when you ask me, do I think Tank versus Ryan is realistic for December? I think it's possible. The reason I think it's possible is I think I've been saying it. You're going to have to take a chance with Tank when the market gets bored with Tank. And I think when they're looking at the actual pay-per-view numbers, not the ones they're reporting to the public, when they're actually looking at the real numbers, they're seeing likely a plateau or maybe even a small decline. And they're saying we got to put this guy against somebody because the market may be getting bored with it. But he's doing great numbers live gate. That's for sure. And I think they are in the green with pay-per-view numbers because these are cheap pay-per-views. He doesn't have to sell too many of them. And I don't think they fear Ryan Garcia. I don't. That could be a mistake. It could be a mistake, but I don't know if they fear Ryan Garcia. So will they possibly do a cross promotion with Golden Boy for this fight? It's possible. It's possible. Which one is more likely? I would say Errol versus Bud. I would still say that. They got to make that fight. They got to make Errol versus Bud. And they got to make it this year. They have to. They have to. If they don't deliver that fight, what are they in business for if they don't deliver that fight? It's the biggest fight that can be made, biggest pure fight that can be made in boxing. Errol versus Bud. And only one promotional company can deliver it right now, because that's the only promotional company that Errol Spence will work with. And Bud knows that. He's under contract with them. Bud's got to go over there. So all eyes are on PBC to deliver this fight that they've said for 4 years that they would deliver. And now, 292 days, they've had this at the negotiation table. They've had 292 days to work on this possible fight since before the Ugas fight. And they still haven't delivered it. I have to think they have to deliver this fight, or they're going to have egg all over their face. And I tend to agree with boxing historian Eileen that Tank versus Ryan will happen in December. But look, Michelle Rivera's off the table. Raleigh Romero looks to be off the table. They could possibly do Isaac Cruz, but Tank is telling Isaac Cruz to fight Raleigh. Frank Martin, I don't know. It's got to be somebody cheap, unless it's going to be Ryan Garcia, and they can sell actual pay-per-views and make this an actual pay-per-view extravaganza. And eventually he has to fight somebody. He has to. Spence and Butter jokes to me now. Yeah, until they make the fight, man. Until they make the fight. It looks like it's postponed. It's not officially postponed yet, but Shields versus Marshall looks like it's going to be postponed according to the UK content creators. That's what I'm seeing. 10-day moratorium after the Queen passes away. Looks like that fight is not happening this weekend. Tyson Fury is so frustrating, and he is. Tyson Fury, just be normal. Just be normal. Just fight the fights. We need a heavyweight who's going to take on all comers, do it in a timely manner. And that guy doesn't look like it's going to be Anthony Joshua, because he looks like he can't beat Usyk. He's proven that. Can he beat Tyson Fury? Will he begin given that opportunity realistically in December? Likely not. I don't know, man. It's just frustrating seeing Fury and Wilder go about how they've been going about. Both of them seem to be they're in a crazy man competition right now. Who can say the crazier things? Who can be the crazier guy? That's Fury and Wilder right now. And I don't expect these dudes to be perfect. I'm very forgiving of fighters. It's just like, be normal. Give us a heavyweight champion who wants to consolidate all the belts, be undisputed, and can actually pull it off, and is actually a sustainable fighter, a guy who will be around 5 years from now. And I don't see that guy right now currently in the heavyweight division. That's the frustrating thing about it, because I don't have a dog in this race. I just want to see good fights. I've been complimentary about Fury. I don't think anybody in the heavyweight division beats him. I've been complimentary of Wilder. I think he's a net positive for the sport. He's exciting, and the heavyweight division is better when he's in it. But at the same time, these dudes, they're very much a mixed bag. They very much come with baggage and liabilities, and that's playing out right now. I love what I think Tyson Fury is doing. Fight AJ in December, Usyk in March to put a stamp on his best of the era claim, and then beat 7 bells out of Wilder again just because he likes it, and then ride. And if he pulls that off, he'll get no greater complimenter of that than me. If he announces he's going to fight AJ, if that fight really comes off in December, and then he fights Usyk after that, and then he puts another beating down on Deontay Wilder, big fan. I'd be a big fan of that. Big fan. That'd be a big flex. But what I think is going to happen is he'll fight like Emmanuel Char in December. I think he'll fight Manuel, something like that, and he's setting AJ up for a fall guy. AJ is the most reliable heavyweight. He is, except the fact that he can't beat Usyk. And that's the thing. Like, you have a cruiserweight with 4 major belts right now, 4 of the 5, if we're counting the ring belt as a major belt. You have a natural cruiserweight with the lineal heavyweight championship right now. On top of that, he's got the WBO, WBA, and the IBF. He's holding all that hardware, and he's only been in a handful of heavyweight fights. As I explained yesterday, it puts a squash on this theory that everybody's had out there that bigger heavyweights of today would have owned smaller heavyweights of the past. It's the greatest argument against that theory is Alexander Usyk. And Alexander Usyk is a guy we could throw in that mix, but if he becomes undisputed, he's already signaled that retirement is close for him. So he's not going to be a guy around 5 years from now either, in my opinion. But he's the most reliable right now in that he's actually winning the fights. He's actually consolidating belts, real belts. He's consolidated 9 of the 10 major belts in the 2 weight classes he's competed in 20 fights. That's a flex. That's a flex. Usyk is a bad man. Usyk is a bad man. And he lets negotiations happen behind closed doors. He doesn't have Twitter thumbs. He's not on Instagram doing all that stuff. He's letting his manager, promoter do that, and he's going to fight the fights. That's the consistent heavyweight that we need. But these dudes are letting a natural cruiserweight come in and conquer their territory, which is showing me that these dudes aren't the big kings that they've been built up to be. And I like them. I like AJ. I like Wilder. I like Fury, net positive. Like I said, they just come with a lot of mixed baggage, and they're not the kings they've been built up to be in the heavyweight division. And Alexander Usyk is proving that. He's proving that. And Alexander Usyk's manager is on Twitter saying, it seems like you want to do everything else, Tyson Fury. It seems like you want to do everything else right now except negotiate an actual fight with Alexander Usyk. And from the behavior I've been seeing, calling him a blown-up middleweight, a cruiserweight, saying I'd fight him for no money, then saying I need $500 million to fight him. That seems to be the case. I don't know how else to read it. Jared Anderson seems like he would be the dude, but let's see, eye tests these days are unreliable. That's right. Preordained syndrome. D-Style and G-Funky talk about that all the time. Let's not preordain Jared Anderson. I'm just saying he's the best prospect, heavyweight prospect that's come up in a long time. Remember, Deontay Wilder was not this great heavyweight prospect. He was a work in progress. He was very raw. Yes, he won a bronze medal, but he was very raw. And it proves that the resume proves that because it took him 33, 39 fights before he was actually in real fights. Jared Big Baby Anderson looks like he looks the part already, and they're going to move him more aggressively at top rank than Golden Boy moved Deontay Wilder coming up. Are clearly the best, but they aren't young. That's right. None of those guys are young. None of them are young. They were saying Herzgoff, but after he lost, I don't think so. That's right. JC in the building. Lennox was best in the building. And boy, do I miss Lennox Lewis. Boy, do I miss him. Wilder, the Cannon shaman of boxing. Wilder don't believe it. He's just playing to his audience. There's a reason he only talks to Ellie Seckbeck. And that's right. Like, I know the channels that get they're being paid indirectly by Wilder in the PBC, these channels. I'm not saying that Al is cutting the check. I'm not saying Leonard's cutting the check to the Pro Tank people. I'm not saying that Deontay Wilder is cutting checks. What I'm saying is there are certain channels and content creators who are getting the interviews, and they're being indirectly paid through the clicks, through the AdSense. through all the stuff that they're getting on the back channels. You're getting indirectly paid for these interviews, and they're getting indirectly paid to continue to spread this propaganda that they're spreading when it comes to Deontay Wilder. And the question is, does Wilder actually believe it or not? I don't know. The fight won't be postponed because of the Queen, as sad as that news is. I hope it's not. I hope it's not canceled. I hope it's not postponed. But that's just what I was reading. Let's see. Let's start a petition to get Wilder to play the next Black Panther. December 17th is the one day before the World Cup final. Would be insane to try and sell boxing pay-per-view in England on that date. Yeah, I don't know. And there's a reason. There's got to be a reason that he's talking about the dates this way, because that's only a 2-week difference. And he said he'd fight Usyk in February and March. So why is 2 weeks? Why does that make that big of a difference? And what it comes down to is there are poison pills in this deal that they sent to AJ that he has to agree to 100% today, or it goes away. There are poison pills in this set up for AJ to be the fall guy, AJ to look like the bad guy here, that he didn't accept the deal. Tyson Fury is going to go all over the place, say, see, I told you AJ don't want to fight me. See, I told you he's a bloody dosser. I told you he's a wanker. I told you he's a pigeon. I told you he's a simp. That's what's going to happen here. And then Tyson Fury's crazy fans, his super fans, his extreme fans are going to say, yes, AJ ducked the Gypsy King. Yes, AJ ducked the heat. AJ didn't want that smoke with Tyson Fury. AJ knew he was going to lose that fight. AJ knows Tyson Fury was going to beat him within 6 rounds. AJ knows he was going to get his third straight loss, his 4th loss in his last 6 fights. He knows it. He didn't want that heat. That's what the Tyson Fury super fans are going to say when this falls through, because the deal was likely set up to fall through. The deal was likely set up by Tyson Fury and his team with poison pills in it to fall through and make AJ look like the fall guy, make AJ look like the bad guy. That's what we got here. And Bob Arum's out there right now saying he doesn't think the AJ fight is going to happen. So I don't know what else to tell people, man. Like, it just seems like this is a setup. Remy, appreciate you. Always appreciate you coming through and appreciating that super chat. It would be easy for me to come on here and do like the Deontay Wilder super fans do, to get the super chats and to get the AdSense money and the clicks, and then build up a huge fan base just based off of cheerleading for a certain guy. I'm certainly not patting myself on the back, because there are a lot of channels that don't do that either. But I'm not going to get on here. I've talked about Tyson Fury complimentary in the past. Deontay Wilder the same before he turned heel. But I'm not going to continue to do that just to keep those fans under the roof, under the umbrella. When Tyson Fury acts like this, he needs to be called out on it. When Deontay Wilder is carrying on the way he's doing still about the cheating allegations and he's saying crazy things like, I didn't want to bring it to the authorities because I didn't want him. This is his words. I didn't want him to go to jail and lose the fight. That's what he's saying about not bringing the allegations to the authorities before the fight. And by the way, you can still bring those allegations to the authorities if he wants. He already got the fight. But he wanted to make it out to where he's going after vigilante justice to Tyson Fury. I'm going to dish out punishment for him cheating, and I'm going to get paid millions of dollars to do it. Except your vigilante justice failed. It failed. You lost the fight. And if you lost the fight, the second fight due to cheating, you should have had your eggs in order for the third fight to where cheating couldn't happen again. But you're claiming he cheated in the third fight as well. So apparently you learned nothing from the second fight. Because if you learned from the second fight, you wouldn't have had the guy who was checking the gloves in the second fight checking the gloves for the third fight. There's no way you could have claimed that he cheated in the third fight if you learned your lessons from the second fight, because you would have made it foolproof that he couldn't cheat in the third fight. You would have had everything set up to make sure that this guy can't cheat against you again. But now you're claiming that he cheated you a third time and you need a fourth fight. The first fight was a long count, right? Because these dudes don't understand counts in seconds. There's not a clock when the guy hits the canvas. That's not how it works. You're going off the referee's count. So even if a guy is on the canvas for 11 seconds, it goes down to the referee's count, the referee's discretion on how the count works. That's already been debunked. Same thing with Tyson and Buster Douglas. That was debunked a long time ago. So it was a long count, poison, egg weights, taking padding out the glove, and God only knows what the third fight was. Maybe a mixture of all of those. Who knows? Who the hell knows? But nobody wants to see a fourth fight. Don't want to see it. You got to get over the fact that you lost. It happens throughout boxing history all the time. Boxing is littered with examples of guys who lose to a guy, maybe even multiple times. Oscar loses to Shane multiple times. Shane loses to Vernon Forrest multiple times. B-Hop loses to Jermaine Taylor multiple times. But guess what? Oscar had a greater career than Mosley. Shane had a greater career than Vernon. B-Hop had a greater career than Taylor. So you take from your L's, you learn them, you move on, and you have a great career going forward. That's what losses do, and they're trying to take it out of boxing. They're trying to take the risk out of boxing to where guys don't have to take L's. The issue with that is you're not learning if you don't take the L's. How can you truly be great if you don't take the risk and possibly risk losing a fight? So when a guy like Deontay Wilder actually loses a fight, he loses his mind because he has to come up with all kind of alibis because his fans don't want that loss on his resume. They don't want that L. They don't want it. Floyd Mayweather going on undefeated throughout his career polluted a lot of people's minds. It gave people unrealistic expectations when it comes to every other fighter because none of these fighters are Floyd Mayweather. None of them. Even Floyd Mayweather, the first Jose Luis Castillo fight, really lost the fight. Got a gift decision. It's unrealistic to expect a fighter to go all throughout his career without a loss. Andre Ward did it, but likely lost the first Kovalev fight, for being honest. But when you go Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward being undefeated, and you expect every other fighter behind that, every one of your favorite fighters behind that to be undefeated, it's not realistic. So then Deontay Wilder has to try to come up with all kind of alibis as to why he lost the fight instead of looking in the mirror and say, you know what? I just lost the fight. I lost to a better fighter that night. Head to head, he's the better fighter. That doesn't mean head to head I can't be the greater fighter when all is said and done, because Deontay Wilder can go on, possibly beat Andy Ruiz, possibly get a fight with Usyk in the future, possibly get a fight with Anthony Joshua in the future. And he can consistently mow guys down while Tyson Fury is on the side doing God knows whatever Tyson Fury is doing. Talking himself out of fights and deals, not fighting for undisputed. Deontay Wilder can go about his business, consistently beat fighters, fight for 4 more years. He said he's going to fight till he's 40. And then possibly be considered greater than Tyson Fury when the boxing historians talk about the two guys 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Because boxing history is littered with guys who lost to a fighter head-to-head, but were considered greater fighters than the fighter that they lost to head-to-head. Happens all the time. If you just take from your losses, learn from them. And we're trying to take that out of life. Failure is part of it. The only way you can succeed is if you have failures before that to learn from. and they're trying to take this out of the boxing process. Look at Tank Davis, perfect example of that. They do not want Tank Davis to lose a fight. The whole aura of Tank Davis up to this point, how they promoted him, is Tank Davis has the O. Tank Davis is unbeatable. Tank Davis in mythical matchups doesn't lose to anybody. It's part of the Tank Davis theorem that I've talked about. Build up the fighters he's fought. Build them up in the future. It's why Isaac Cruz is out there fighting not so good competition. So the win against Isaac Cruz can age better for Tank Davis. It's the reason they're keeping Isaac Cruz under the PBC umbrella instead of giving him the Ryan Garcia fight that he would likely lose. They can't have that. They can't have Ryan Garcia possibly beat Isaac Cruz better than Tank Davis did. Can't have it. Can't have it. It's part of the theorem. It's part of it. But the whole allure, the whole aura is the O of Tank Davis. It's the O. And we can't lose that O, because if so, it's part of our marketing goes out the window. When instead they can just promote the hell out of this guy as a knockout artist, an exciting fighter. Even if he loses, guess what? Everybody's still showing up the next fight because this guy's entertaining. He's a knockout artist. Everybody can see the talent. Losses happen. It's the difference in culture I talked about from the UFC to the boxing. UFC, the record for most wins consecutively for a UFC fighter is 16. 16. Hell, we have 7 guys in the top 10 in the welterweight division who I believe have broken that record. How embarrassing is it that you have 7 guys in the top 10 in one division undefeated? That's embarrassing. It shouldn't happen. It's embarrassing. That's the difference between our culture and their culture. And I'm telling you that because I talk to UFC fans every single weekend. And every single weekend, they're talking greatly of fighters who have 4 losses, 5 losses, 1 or 2 draws. They don't care. They're still following those fighters. They still think those fighters are great fighters. The culture is different because these guys are consistently testing each other over in that sport. And their fans don't care if they lose. Their fans don't care how much money they make. They don't care. Don't care. Over here, we're counting the fighters' pockets, and we're degrading the fighters who lose a fight. They lost a fight, they're exposed. Every single time a fighter loses a fight, they're exposed. Had Deontay Wilder took the loss like a man to Tyson Fury, we just say, we move on. We say he lost to a better fighter that night. He gave it a try. He lost the fight, still a great fighter. He can still go on to beat this guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. You can still make the argument that he beats everybody else in the heavyweight division moving forward. And he would still be considered a better fighter. And the scenario I just threw out there, he can still go on and be considered a greater fighter than Tyson Fury if he consistently fights for 4 or 5 more years and puts together a nice resume of wins. But these dudes can't take L's anymore. And their fans certainly can't take L's anymore. They can't. Can't take L's. Did y'all see that the WBC? I love this. The WBC for Canelo versus Golovkin next weekend. By the way, I'll be at that fight out in Vegas. If anybody's going to be out there, y'all let me know. But they're making this fight for the WBC Zapoteca belt. And what Zapoteca apparently translates to is Jaguar Warrior. So not only is this fight for the WBA, WBO, IBF, and the Ring Magazine Lineal Championship, and the WBC belt, 5 major belts, it's also for the WBC Jaguar Warrior belt. And I'm not kidding. I'm not joking around. Canelo and Golovkin are fighting for the Jaguar Warrior belt. The WBC Jaguar Warrior belt. This is a new, like this tops it all for me. They're fighting to see who the Jaguar Warrior is. The WBC is awarding the Canelo versus Golovkin winner as not only a WBC champ, the WBC Jaguar Warrior champ. How do these conversations happen? Like, how does this happen? How does the WBC even bring this up? How do they keep doing this with a straight face? Like, how does this happen? How does this happen? Like, like, how do these meetings happen? Who brings this up? Like, they meet together one day at the headquarters and say, you know what? Yeah, Canelo and Triple G, they're fighting for the WBC. Yeah. But you know what would be really cool? Like, who is the guy to bring this up? You know what would be really cool? If we have this fight for the Jaguar Warrior belt. Like, if I was in this meeting and a dude was in arm's reach of me and he brought this up and said, we're gonna have Canelo and Triple G fight for the Jaguar Warrior belt, I would slap him in the back of the head. Just slap him in the back of the head. The Jaguar Warrior belt, I'm assuming there's no sanctioning fee for this belt. So it's just the point. Like, if I won the Jaguar Warrior belt, I would do like Anthony Joshua after the Usyk fight. I would take it and I would just throw it out the ring. I would throw it at the WBC president sitting ringside. The Jaguar Warrior belt. I don't care how cool this belt looks. I grab it, I chunk it, and then I hold the other 5 belts proudly. But that Jaguar Warrior belt, I'm spinning it around and I'm throwing it into the crowd. 5th row. Whoever catches it can go home with the Jaguar Warrior belt. Like I'm at Mardi Gras on a float. I'm taking that Jaguar Warrior belt, I'm spinning it around, and I'm throwing it to whoever in the crowd. Whoever catches the Jaguar Warrior belt goes home with it. Do what you want with it. Don't care. You go home with the Jaguar Warrior belt. Take it. The Jaguar Warrior belt. This is a real thing. Like, I'm not joking about this. I'm not kidding. And yeah, you can pawn it, but who the hell wants a Jaguar Warrior belt? I mean, I guess I'll take it. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah, Canelo won the Jaguar Warrior belt. I got it in my office. I put it in the background. That'd be pretty cool. But as a fighter, who the hell wants a Jaguar Warrior belt? The Jaguar Warrior belt. I saw this morning on Twitter, and I'm like, man, I didn't get good sleep last night, but I gotta be seeing things. I'm like rubbing my eyes, my coffee. I'm reading it again. Canelo versus Triple G will be for the WBC Zapateka belt. And I'm like, what is a Zapateka belt? Let me translate that. And then they put in the next sentence, the Zapateka belt. Zapateka apparently translates to Jaguar Warrior. I guess I'll leave you with that. Like, who decides the names of these belts? Who brought this up in the meeting? And why the hell would you want to fight for a Jaguar Warrior belt? The Jaguar Warrior belt can sit in my nephew's shelf along with the G.I. Joes and Ninja Turtles. That's right. I'll give it to my son. I put it on his shelf, the Jaguar Warrior belt. If Canelo wants to, I'll be at the fight. So if Canelo wants to throw that thing into the crowd, I'll catch it. I'll bring it home. But if I'm a fighter, that's what I do. Give me the 5 belts. Give me the WBC. Give me the WBO. Give me the IBF. Give me WBA. And give me that ring belt. I like how the ring belt looks. It's a beautiful belt. Give me all those. I'm the lineal champion too. That Jaguar belt, as soon as he's handing me the Jaguar belt, like Anthony Joshua, I'm going straight to the ropes. And I'm slinging that thing. Jaguar Warrior belt, get that the hell away from me. I can't do anything with the Jaguar Warrior belt. It's honorary belt like the Juneteenth belt and the UFC's bad MFR belt. It's a pathetic promo belt. And that's what I'm saying. Good Lord. So on that note, man, I appreciate y'all coming through. As always, I'll be back tomorrow. And I'll actually be on the roundtable tonight. I believe it's on Ringside Reporter. I don't know if it's the Aftermath or the roundtable tonight. I'm assuming it's the roundtable. and that's going to be over the Ringside Reporter. So check me out over there. Appreciate y'all coming through. God bless. Have a happy Thursday. Peace.